Hey, what's up, beautiful people? Happy Friday. I think it's Friday. I've really been diving into my own self-care practices lately, and going inward today is one of those days. I'm really feeling this need of rest and really rejuvenation myself, so how perfect that we're talking about it today. I even have my comfy clothes on today, just really making sure that during all my client calls I have everything I need to feel my best. So I'm also going to give some hints on those today. So before we jump into all of that, I'd love to hear from all of you too. Just leave a comment below or make a post. I know I've got a couple of private messages, but I really love to hear from all of you, in the group from these past couple of videos. What's really making a difference from you this season? Or maybe it's not even from the videos, maybe it's something else, because we're really all here to support one another, because what works for you could also work for someone else. So really this is a community, so please do share. I'm always interested to hearing your feedback and what's working for you, or even if something was a trigger for you. I love hearing it all. So on our last video, we talked about your monthly cycle and how it ebbs and flows just like the season, and how winter can be such an integral part of exactly what you need for the whole year, and how that can drastically shift your relationship with your body, with food, and so much else. So if you have not done so already, go back and watch that. And then today we're going to talk about, like I said, self-care for grounding, stress release, and also stress prevention, biggest piece, and also rejuvenation. So diving right in, oftentimes we say to be stress-free. Well, stress is always going to really happen in our life. So I think being stress-free is really just a lie, right? Because things can always come up. So really what we want to focus on is stress prevention. And also stress release when it comes up, really knowing how to deal with it, to have the tools in our toolkit so we can move through it and it can be easier for us. So specifically during this season, I know the holidays are here, and I've heard a lot of people have been talking about people pleasing, and also really how to take care of themselves during this time of year. So we're going to go through some truth bombs and also just little nuggets of wisdom for you that I know have made a big difference for me, and to really ground you into this space so you can really feel nourished and also really hit those health goals that you've maybe been struggling with for a very, very long time. Oftentimes we think, well, it's just that I'm not able to stick to because I don't have willpower. There is so much more. It is not just about willpower. There is so much more to health than any of that, than just about food. It is more emotional and spiritual than it is physical at any plane level. If you have a chronic illness, if you're just working on losing weight, any of those things. So just knowing that, and that's why I'm so passionate about really talking about all these topics with you, is because I really want to see you thrive on a level that I know is going to nourish you the best. So diving right into self-care, especially for the holidays. So let's first talk about people pleasing. So I know this is this time of year when we actually start getting all these festivities and holidays, like our, parties on the calendar. We're just like loading up our calendar. So first and foremost is feeling a need that we have to say yes to anybody. So one, your calendar is your choice. Every single thing you put in your calendar, every single choice you make every single day is a choice. It is not a have to at all. That includes even taking care of your children. Now, the reason I bring this up, because I work with some mothers, and I know sometimes they're like, well, I have to take care of my kids. Actually, no, you don't. You could be completely not present for your kids. You could have left them right at the hospital. You could have put them in a dumpster. I mean, I know this sounds very drastic, but this is true. You could have chose all that. And, there's consequences to each choice that you make, right? And most of you want to take care of your kids. So there's a difference between having to and desiring to do something and wanting to do something, right? And feeling as though you have to is quite different. So know that there is a choice in every single thing you do. So when you say, well, I have to go do the thing, I have to do this because it's my friend, it's my grandma, it's my relatives. And so you load up this calendar during this holiday season because you feel you have to go to all these things. You can say no at any moment. You don't even have to go to one of them. You do not have to do anything you do not want to do. So, right, that's that step out of victim mode that we've been talking about, and being in empowerment of choice. Always knowing that you have a choice in that. And if you're like, oh, but it's my relatives and the consequences, what I do is always weigh, like, does this feel really good for me and what I want for myself and how I desire my life to look? And also too, like, what's the path of least resistance? So always think about that too. And if you are not willing to put yourself first, then right, you have some work to do on self-love and actually caring for you more than other people, right? You cannot love someone else fully until you fully learn to love yourself. So within that also as well is, so being mindful really of your calendar. I think this is the biggest piece of self-care I can also give. Being mindful with your calendar and noticing that you don't have to say yes to anything, choosing based on how you want to feel. And I know this is sometimes the thing that comes up is, well, I really want to go to all of the things, but then I'm just so tired. Well, then that's really how you take care of yourself in between. How are you fueling your body? All those different choices, right? Also, just within this calendar piece, this is something that I know I talk to so many women about when they're like, well, I don't have time for self-care, or I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. You have 24 hours in a day, all of which you actively choose what you are doing with. If you are going to work, that is a choice. You have a choice in going to work or not. You have a choice in going to parties. You have a choice in taking care of your children. You have a choice in being with your partner. All of these are choices. So, where in there did you place self-care? And often when I talk to women, it's like, oh, where are you putting in your self-care for the day? And it's not right just in the scheduling times, but it's also in how you take care of yourself. So I do want to point that out as well. But just in there with those pieces, where do you actually place on your calendar self-care? Like, is that actually going in there? Or is it just a last minute thought like, oh yeah, I really need to take care of myself. I should probably schedule something. Ooh, if you want to create massive transformation in your body, in your health, in your life, first and foremost is you. You are the master creator of your reality. You choose where that self-care goes. So if I look at my calendar, guess what goes in first? First thing for the week. For me, I know, and I'm not saying you have to do all these things, is massage, acupuncture, any time. I also look at my cycle. Like we've talked about, I've looked at my monthly cycle ahead to see how much downtime I might need, more inward introspection, my time to meditate, my time to read. All of those goes ahead before I even schedule in my clients. Then I schedule my clients around that. So knowing that you have that choice. So making that for yourself. And of course, it's also in how, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So going into, as you've decided to go in these beautiful holiday parties or whatever it is, social events, social gatherings that you would like to go to. So you show up to the party, right? And let's say it's your grandma or your boss or somebody else has made you something like, I made my beautiful pecan pie. It's been a thing and here I made it just for you. Know that if you have decided for yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, I know that's totally gonna wreak havoc on my gut. I'm not gonna feel great. Ugh. And you're kind of start guilting yourself. And then so you give in and you're like, oh, that wasn't the best, but I had to. Going back to that, you didn't have to. You don't have to. You can say no. You can say no to all those around you. It is not an insult to them. That's you choosing to make an insult to them. It is not rude. You know, despite what we've been told, they decided to make that for us. That was their choice. So, right, not also feeling sorry for someone that puts them in victim mode. And, right, that's something we don't want to play around with. So know you have a choice in that. Don't eat it. If you don't want to, don't do it. And you might be going, well, easier said than done if it's right in front of me. Well, remember, it's also not about self-control or willpower. It's about choosing what is best for you at all times. And sometimes that pecan pie might be like, oh yeah, like actually I'm gonna have a little bit. That sounds really good. Sometimes that might be a great piece of self-care. I myself do it. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna have a brownie or whatever it is if I feel that really feels good for me at that time. And I also weigh out, how am I gonna feel? Question always is, how I'm gonna feel after I do X, Y, Z. Is that going to serve me? Is that going to take away? Because are those moments really worth it to me? So also really weighing on that. So if grandma makes her beautiful pecan pie, pumpkin pie, anything like that, you don't have to partake if you don't want to. You can just kindly say no. That's all you have to do, is say no. 2, also in that, is knowing that surrounding yourself with people that hinder your progress or do not feel aligned with what you want. We can love people and still them not be healthy for our well-being. That's something that I know took me a long time to kind of realize this. Like, well, I really love them and I like hanging out with them, but I tended to be triggered by different things they did or in situations I was with them. So I had to learn to draw boundaries. And for me, before I was able to really learn how to create this healthy lifestyle of being plant-based, mainly raw vegan in all different situations, I first had to back myself out of it, right? Because you don't put an alcoholic in a bar when they're first recovering and expect them to do really well. The same is true for health. Sometimes you have to create spaciousness for yourself, before you're able to do all the things you used to be able to do. Sometimes you might not even want to do those things anymore or be around those same people, which I found to be very true. So also knowing that piece for yourself, it's okay to take time because you are in recovery. And I know that can sound kind of odd, but you are in recovery if you're working on really developing a healthy lifestyle, because you have to. If you have food addictions and you have chronic illness, that is something you really have to do. So knowing that, if you creating a boundary for yourself at first of even not being around family. And I know that can be difficult and also something you need. So sometimes we have to say no to people we love, and it doesn't mean we don't love them, but it means we love them oftentimes physically from afar. But we just have to do something for ourselves. And that is a really big, empowering step that you can take for yourself. If you notice that things take place during the holidays that are very abusive, and I don't mean just physically, but also emotionally or spiritually, there's always arguments, then choose not to be around those people. It will really support you. And I know that may not feel like an option, but it always is. Always is. So going on, getting my notes so I don't get too far off track here. Oh, got a little thing going on. Stress. Okay, going over a little bit about stress. So one of my beautiful teachers, Sadhguru, he speaks that stress, and I believe Eckhart Tolle talks about this too, he has a beautiful book called The Power of Now. Definitely check that out. But stress is created by something that has never happened. So we choose to have the feeling of stress within us. We create stress within us by future worry or past worry, right? By something that's already happened or something that's in the future. By always being present with, there is no stress, right? And so I know this is one that I'm consistently working on myself. But if it hasn't happened yet, why stress about it? How is stress actually supporting you and any of your goals? Like even thinking about, well, this is going to happen and this and this and this, and so stress. You are choosing to be in stress because you are choosing to worry about something that has never happened. So being present to the now doesn't mean you can't also prepare ahead. Those two are not exclusive of one another, but also realizing, right, of like, okay, here is, what's happening in the future. What do I want to do about it? And actually asking the how, rather than being in the shit and the gunk and all that sticky stuff, right? Like quicksand, but really being present in the now. And if something is in that past, you can't change it. You can only ever be here, right now, and choose how you're going to work with this moment. So really noticing that stress has no support in your life. And I've had there was an interesting discussion, I believe it was actually with my parents or someone else, but it was like, well, you're not stressed, so you don't care. No, I just don't choose to be stressed. I choose to learn how to deal with or release a situation or create a situation that I desire instead. Your stress only takes a toll on your body which only takes a toll, right? What is that? With your adrenals, which also affects your digestive system, which creates weight gain, which creates, was going to add to chronic illness and all fatigue and tiredness and all these different things. And so really, you don't have to be stressed to go through a difficult situation, right? We can be in pain, but we choose to suffer. So remembering that as well. Beautiful. Another beautiful piece that I love to talk about is disattachment and expectation. So sometimes this is like the little stuff that comes up daily, right? Like sometimes when you're in the car with people, or when the situation happens and it's like, oh, well, they didn't do this and they didn't do that and this didn't happen. So we get all flustered and we get stressed out about it. Something happens, or we get angry with someone. And a lot of this comes from an expectation of someone else, or even ourselves too. And so there's a certain amount that I've created in my life of disattachment or disassociation to the expectation. So expect nothing and expect everything. And so for me, that means I do not expect anything from anybody. Any perfection, any sort of this has to happen for everything to be okay. When we start telling ourselves that something has to happen for things to be okay, we set ourselves up for stress and also feelings of failure. Now, this also works within food. When we have an expectation that we're going to do absolutely perfectly, which we talked about, there is no perfection in eating or anything else, right? Or no perfection in how somebody else acts or how we act, then we set ourselves up for, well, fuck, I didn't do it right. Or fuck, they didn't do it. So now you're just pissed, right? So now you're just back in the muck and the gunk. But then if it's like, oh, well, it didn't happen, right? So we take that moment. So there's that beautiful space in between reaction. And so instead of before reacting, of going, taking that breath, right? Breath work is such a great piece of self-care, of to taking those moments in between, and taking that moment and pausing, going, okay, I was really hoping that was going to happen. That was something that I was really looking forward to. Okay, and it didn't. So now what are we going to do, right? Because that goes back to the stress. Stress is of what already happened or what didn't happen yet. So being present to that moment, going, okay, well, it didn't happen. Well, what do we want to do now about it? We don't want to carry around anger or frustration or any of those. It's important to honor that too. And I do want to mention that. It's important to honor your anger, your frustration, or something like that too, if you need to. And also noticing how it's serving you, right? So I know we're seeing a lot of family members and different types of situations are coming up this year. So also really remembering that. So in terms of some more of the little bit less of the emotional and more on the physical plane for self-care, here are some pieces that I am really connecting with daily and that I really offer for you, especially during this time of year. Of course, like we talked about, calendar it in, and of course use how it is and how you act. That is that self-care pieces we just went through. It is how you take care of yourself in each moment, how you move through emotions, how you speak to yourself, how you work through stuff. That is self-care. That is the best self-care. You have to schedule a massage or a spa day to get that for yourself. So remember that. It is in all the moments. It is as you walk through life, and in each situation is your self-care. It's self-love. In terms of the physical plane, some things I really love to schedule right now is massage. I'm getting a lot of massages right now because I want to move that energy, right? We're going inward like we talked about. I'm doing a lot of massages right now. And, if that's not something you can do right now for whatever reason, you can always do it with a partner or a friend, work on each other, work on yourself, of course, with that too. Magnesium salt baths, great for cravings, also great for joint pain and other things like that. Get some magnesium salt, put like a cup in warm water in the bathtub along with lavender salt or lavender oils, any frankincense this time of year. So juicy and so wonderful. Sit in there for at least 20 minutes. Also castor oil packs right along the liver and also the GI tract. Just feels so warm and nourishing. Also great for digestion as well too. Simple things with your food that also getting in some raw foods, because we are getting into more of the grounding, the heavier foods, making sure that you're getting some fresh green juice daily, at least some lemon water, some fresh orange juice, whatever it is, making sure you're also getting fruits every single day. So making sure to include raw foods. Never going over 50% cooked a day. Really want to stay in alkalinity. No matter where you are in your journey, make sure at least 50% raw. Otherwise, you're going to the side of acidosis, which leads to chronic pain and also illness, right? 2, tapping is also a great thing. If you have never heard of tapping, go look it up. EFT, I'm not going to show it to you now, but tapping can be wonderful this time of year, something you can do in your car. Along with breathing exercises. Sometimes when I tend to talk on these, I know for myself, after I get off, that I really need to connect with my breath, which is really grounding. I really love always putting my hand on my heart, one hand on the belly, taking some big deep breaths, and just being here, just being with yourself in that way. Always breathing, right? Especially if you're feeling stressed, just to feel what it's like to be in your body. Essential oils also too on the bottom of the feet if you're having any issues sleeping, doing some frankincense and lavender on the bottom of the feet. Your bottom of the feet have a lot of different nerve endings, more easily absorbable. Oils are more easily absorbed into the system through the feet as well. So also playing with your feet, you can always do that. Even when you're like hanging out with family, you can do some pressure points on your feet. You can do some tapping with your family. You can do some deep breathing exercises even while you're listening with someone. And especially while you're listening to someone, to really connect and to really be present. I find that breath work is so great for that. So with that, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How is this really supporting you this season? What are you choosing to do for yourself this season? I want to hear, what commitment is that you're making for yourself? If you have not already, please join me for the moon cycle sessions. I think I have a couple more sessions left. I am going to be headed out to Bali and then to Australia. And so I'm just doing a few different sessions, especially if you're really looking to find a way to find an ebb and flow with your body without dieting, without going on even like more of a restrictive detox, or even how to incorporate this piece of really learning how to find more love grounding within your body and to be able to release guilt around food and understanding more of that connection between the adrenals, your hormones, a digestive system, and your thyroid. Come join me for the moon cycle sessions. I have a couple left. Would love to support you. These are a great way to get one-on-one support without having to really commit to a full 6-month program. This is my, lower cost program. So I made this so it would be also budget friendly and also just the most supportive, really bridging the gap between all the different things that a lot of my clients are working on with detoxification and chronic illness and, everything from brain fog to fatigue, and also releasing guilt. So come join me for that. I'll put up a link for it, and have a beautiful, wonderful, nourishing day.